You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello, Paul Meyerberg in the chat tonight. I gave the Rev a shot. Oh, look who's back.
Who?
That
Who?
guy up in the corner.
You say I had to go to Mama Longo. Mama Longo. I can't, can't miss that one.
I thought maybe you'd have to rearrange your sock drawer tonight, or I don't know, maybe something was really important that you couldn't make the show tonight.
To rearrange his deer heads,
Cologne called me. He's like, Lou, who else is doing the show? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, Coobs has something tonight. He's not going to be on. I'm like, oh, I thought he was fooling around with the sock drawer.
I was.
He goes, oh, maybe he was fooling around with the sock drawer.
Something wrong with that kid. What is he?
I said, I think he was fooling around.
Whacked.
But I mean, you might as well check it out.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. How was dinner? What'd you have? The Menegort?
Oh.
What did I have? I had what I always have.
I don't know.
Zupa de Pesh.
All right, where'd you go?
Forget about it.
We went to a place on Francis Lewis Boulevard in Whitestone.
Call what? Oh, hello.
That's you.
Call what?
I don't know. That's where she goes with her friends. I forget the name of the place.
Who went? The whole family?
Something.
The whole familia?
Yeah, my brother-in-laws went. All the grandkids. It was nice.
Oh,
they have a little gabagool over here, or what?
Yeah, my gabagool over here.
Yeah.
Do you have that one?
I do.
Gabagool
over
here.
Gabagool over here.
Yeah, he's got a camp
Tank
room.
Tankamus is still in your house?
He's leaving tomorrow. No,
they
went to the city today. But we caught a job yesterday.
I saw he buffed the job.
Buffed the job. I was bringing him to 288. He wanted to get some HazMat 1 shirts and squad shirts. And he says, oh, I don't think the squad's there. I think they just turned out on a third alarm. I'm like, yeah? I said, all right, maybe we'll take it in. We got on there, got on the Grand Central. I'm like, oh, shit, that's a pretty big plume up there, bro.
Where was it? By 154? Oh,
no, it was actually right down Queens Boulevard, 43rd. You make a right. It was like right there, a left, and it's right there. 43rd and 47th.
It's right there.
Like super duper close.
Right
wow, that
I
is
think
close.
The squad beat in the fast truck, 163.
That's, yeah. Wow.
When we got there, it was pushing out everywhere.
We didn't do so good there?
I talked to Ralphie. He says they were there for 3 hours. There was so much fire.
Goodness.
They were there for 3 hours, chasing it around. Cutting 2 trenches because those always work. And it skipped the trench first. I think they might have caught it on the 3rd trench. I don't know.
They always work.
Yeah, trenches.
Actually, I do have
what?
Upload a picture of it. I mean, it's kind of hard to make out, but there it is. I mean, that's the squad. It's kind of hard to make out.
What the fuck kind of picture is that? What do
I don't know.
See
You got rig, and then you got tank shoulder.
You could have picked up a picture of the 5th alarm on like
well, maybe yeah. I didn't want to. I don't want to go too.
All right,
crazy.
the guy he's working over. He's trying, cool.
He's trying over here. Yeah. Hit me in the nuts. That's all right. Next time. I was trying to throw something up before you moved on to the next subject. You know what?
I mean,
I'm gonna have a drink.
My picture's
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Salute.
Is this our last show before Christmas? I think so.
Fuck yeah, man.
Oh shit, man. We gotta wish everybody a Christmas.
I thought we were doing the hat thing, man. I brought my hat. I figured
I didn't even know.
It was on that show.
You're not allowed to wear a hat. You're Jewish. You can't wear a hat.
Oh, I can't say.
What are you talking about, bro? You can't double dip.
Only the good half.
Guys, how long is it going to pummel you with that?
That's all right.
I mean, this is like going on for 2 months. He's pummeling you with the double dip.
He got me on I'm upstairs decorating my tree. I'm like, upstairs decorating? You mean the menorah? What are you talking about? The tree? Can't be the tree. It's got to be the menorah.
The guys are going to hit you up. They're going to back me up in the chat here. Somebody's going to hit me up here eventually.
Yeah.
My hair's gorgeous.
Let's get to the ad. I got to tell you, I'm very intrigued by our guest tonight. Not only did Louis and I work with him, but you talk about putting HazMat on the map, bro. Charter member of HazMat. I've never gotten a guy. We've never had a guy on the show with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of a job line. You know what I mean, bro?
I had to cut that down to like to fit it on the Facebook thing. They only give you like, I don't know, like 1,000 characters or something.
Say a man is smart is understatement.
We get 5,000 because I was thinking I had to trim it too for the to create it here.
Oh, you had to trim it on the description here too.
8,000 characters. I had to get it down below 5.
We've had guys
shit in there too.
We've had guys on that spent like their entire career like one place. I pick up the thing. I'm like,
Yeah, this guy was in like
what?
262. All right, great.
We got to keep going. We got to keep going.
But this man, yeah, man, this is the real deal. This is the real deal of the terrorism, the whole thing. Help put the squads together. Help put the tech rescues, the tech engines together. Help put the CPC companies together. Was there the first day on HazMat. So
yeah, for sure, he's got a lot.
But let's get to we got to get a lot because I got to make. I'm on paycheck to paycheck here on a fixed income. We got to get to the commercials done.
Bullshit. Anyway, here we go from New Jersey Fire.
Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Firehooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
All right, we got another one?
We do. Here we go.
It is a book that will perhaps go down as the report from Engine Company 82 of our generation. They Saved New York, written by Glenn Uston and Dan Potter, a retired New York City firefighter, explores the men and women of the FDNY and their respective journeys into the department. From everyone from firefighters on the fire floor to those who were in positions of command, such as lieutenant, captain, and chief, and so on and so forth, this book explores their stories told through their perspectives. Each story differs, but the mission is the same, and the common theme is this: those that put their lives on the line to save their fellow New Yorker, no matter the cost, no matter the situation, whenever they were in need. Get your hands on this book today. You will not regret it. Written by, once again, retired New York City firefighter Dan Potter, and the concept and photography provided by the one and only Glenn Uston, a member of the Fire Bell Club in New York City. They Saved New York, the men and women of the FDNY. If you'd like to purchase the book, you can do so at theysavedny.com. That is, again, www.theysavedny.com.
Forget that. Go right on Getting Salty Apparel. You can buy the book. And thanks for Mike for putting the Soul Glow tune behind that. You gotta let your soul glow in the background.
Mr. Randy Watson.
Mr. Randy Watson.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Listen, wait, before we get to that, one thing, who was in the Gabe Fox, do me a favor. Everybody in the chat, email Vince at Almatough and tell him to come up with a new commercial already. We're getting tired of playing the other one. So let's all get out and force an email Vince at Armor Tech. Say we need the new commercial.
Or Tough. We'll get with the tech.
Yep. All right, Ruffy, bring the man in. He's been waiting to listen to the shenanigans.
All right, coming to the stage, FDNY Battalion Chief Bob Ingram. Well, he knows what he's doing over there because he's got the headset.
He's got the headset. He's got the it's perfect on there, bro. And down in the man cave somewhere.
All the pictures are like really centered perfectly, and
except for the bottom one right behind my head.
I didn't want to say anything.
It's irking him now.
I didn't really want to say nothing, but it's bothering me. It's in the wrong place.
Attention to that shit.
You could have that crap that's on Gonzo's wall.
You were clapping so loud it shook the walls and moved the picture.
That's what it was.
Well deserved. Well deserved clap.
I'm just Coop's punching bag tonight. There we go.
All right, Pete.
Hey, well, I'm with you. My wife is Jewish, and I converted to Judaism. So, so you
did.
You were looking for some support there. So,
do you double dip on Christmas, Chief?
No.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Come
You're
on,
not a
man.
double dipper.
Come
Well, we
on,
got a guy
we do.
here who's-
It's all semantics. We go over to my family's house and help them celebrate Christmas.
Mm.
So
You see, it's all wordplay, Gonzo. You see how the
That's what it
chief
is?
did that?
You know, it's Italians and Jews, they're same corporation, different division. You know,
All right.
come on, you know how it is. You gotta listen to some
Built
country music.
amazing.
Look at filter.
Besides the
Amazing.
bagels and lox, the Jews got nothing.
What do you have?
Anyway.
Like pizza and lox then?
No,
Oh,
All right,
God.
before we got to get the pledge.
Yes, let's
Pete,
go. Sorry.
Pete, let's get patriotic here.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amazing. Still the best country in the whole wide world, the history of the world. All right, let's get into Chief Ingram's timeline. It is very long, but let's go back first, Chief. Give us a little about the early Ingram, where you grew up, what made you want to be a fireman, where'd you go to school, stuff like that.
I was wondering if you're going to ask that. As I told you earlier, that I had listened to Tony Tricario's intro, and very similar. First, father grew up in Brooklyn. My mother grew up in Jersey, and we moved out to Comac early on in 1957. I was the oldest of 7 kids, and it was worked out pretty good. 2 boys, 2 girls, 2 boys. So we all had partners to share bedrooms with and everything like that. But I left when I went to college at 18, and after 2 years, the college and I came to an agreement with the U.S. Navy that I wasn't ready for school in the ROTC. So I came back and started working in Jack in the Box restaurants, where I worked as a high school kid. And it was there that I met a couple of my neighborhood friends and talked me into joining the Comac Volunteer Fire Department.
Oh.
And I got to throw out a couple of thanks to some of the members there: Eddie Monahan out of Rescue 4, Danny Brandenberger out of 120, Larry Schneckenberger out of 120, and an older retired captain, Jerry O'Sullivan, who talked me into taking the test. Just like Tony was talked into by some of his friends. Otherwise, things would have been very different. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be in the fire department. I went to Notre Dame for those 2 years because my father went there. I went there for electrical engineering because he did too, and I had the same kind of characteristics. But ended up working in the Jack in the Box restaurants for about 6 years. Ending up as a district manager, overseeing 6 stores, 5 in the city and 1 in Long Beach. That was quite an interesting career.
Long Beach. Where was the one in Long Beach? I live in Long Beach.
Right on Oceanside Avenue. It's not there anymore because in 1980 they sold all of their restaurants east of the Mississippi, and I could have either gone with them to California or Texas or stayed back. And actually stayed back. My wife and I had just bought a house, and we had also just gone into a silent partnership in a delicatessen and butcher shop. So when they moved the stores, I decided to stay back. I actually worked in the butcher shop and delicatessen for 2 years.
Wow, you're a hustler.
Oh, yeah. Anybody that worked in those kind of retail establishments, you worked in 80, 90 hours a week.
Yeah, you work a lot.
Oh,
I remember Jack in the Box when we were kids. I don't remember what they had there, but I remember it. Was it
Like
burgers?
burgers and fries,
Well,
right?
their big thing with tacos.
Oh, tacos?
Tacos, super tacos, breakfast jacks, things like that.
Gonzo remembers them. I think he was on fries then, right, Gonzo? Back in the...
See, I'm washing lettuce. Soon I'll be on fries.
Everybody, the reason their hamburgers didn't go over that well was they had a secret sauce. They didn't use ketchup.
Oh, the secret sauce. No good, the secret sauce?
No, it wasn't good.
Can you reveal it?
Oh, no.
Top secret.
I got an NDA on that one. No good.
He's still sealed lips on
Even to this day. Yep.
Even to this day. See,
Oh,
that's
what's
an
he at?
employee.
Ingram.
Exactly.
Well,
What's
because
he at?
every
Hey,
time
Ingram,
I
you didn't
go
give
out
up the
west,
secret
I got to
sauce, did you?
stop in one and pick up a taco and a breakfast jacket. And I don't want to be cut off.
They're watching him. You didn't give up the secret sauce, did you, Ingram? Come on.
Well, didn't give it up.
We saw that. We saw you on that cheesy
Oh,
podcast.
yeah.
Talking about the secret sauce. You took the test in what year, Chief?
Same as Tony. Took it in like 77.
Oh, right. So you were the one with the lawsuits with the women and everything too, right?
No, I was. They came in. It was a little bit after that. I think where they had I guess it was involved with the lawsuits because their seniority went back to that time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was
But,
that hard test we talk about. Well, you had to hang on the chin-up bar.
Chin-up
Or
bar.
leg.
Yeah. That was
Right.
that was tough. I just made that one. Made that one. But a little help from my friends cheering me on.
So that was 82 you got hired, huh?
The January of 82. Actually had turned the job down for 2.5 years.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess he was making the scuttles at the Jack in the Box. You know what I mean?
I was making several $1,000s more. I had a company car, and I looked like I had a good long career ahead of me there. But when it came time to move, I didn't want to move.
So that was a good thing that kind of happened at that time, Chief, right? Because you would have missed out
All has
a
to
little bit
fall into
longer.
play,
Yeah.
right, Roof? Everything's
Right.
got to fall into the right spot.
You can't look back at things other than to try and make sure going forward is a little bit easier. You can't change things. And one of the, you asked me earlier about tips, and one of them I thought about is just taking every opportunity that comes along. And I learned things in there, believe it or not, and working in Jack in the Box, they hired a behavioral scientist to help us better understand how to deal with people and how to actually get them to agree to the goals you want them to do, type of stuff. And I've used that a lot throughout my career, just trying to work with people and try to get better achievements out of them and how to do that. So
training that you learned, 40 years ago, still stuck
40.
with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. See?
You take a lesson, you learn it, and you keep it with you for the rest of your life. Unless something comes up to change it. And that was one of many that I've had. And I've had a lot of great mentors in the fire service, particularly, that really helped me out with a lot of what I was able to do and people I was able to work with.
Who were some of the guys that were in your probie class?
I really can't remember many of them. The one that there's always there is George Carlin. I like George. He and I both went to 163 together. Actually, 4 of us went to that same house, 2 in the engine, 2 in the truck. The class before us, because the classes then were only 4 weeks long. The class before us, 4 of them went to that house, 2 in the truck, 2 in the engine.
Wow.
Class before that, 4 went into there. So in like the last 8-10 months, we had 12 probies in the house.
That's a big turnover.
Wow.
It was, but on the other side of the house, the engine captain Jacoby and the truck captain Brienne's both had 36 and 37 years on. The chauffeurs, 3 of them had 36 in the truck, and the last one, Bill Bertalic, had 40, all in the same company.
Oh,
Wow.
my goodness gracious.
As you don't see that kind of stuff.
No, so you had some senior guys,
Absolutely.
senior officers, and a whole bunch of young bucks. That makes
We probably had about 2 or 3 others that had about 7 years, and then a couple that had about 12. And there was one guy, I remember George Reichel was so happy to see us in those 8 months because he was the can man after 17 years in the company still. So when we started to come in there as probies, he was really happy.
They finally get
He's like, thank God I'm not the young guy anymore.
Yeah, thank God. But it was a great house, good group of
work
guys.
then?
I'm sorry?
You catch any good work over there then?
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
had residential buildings there. We had commercial fires, multiple alarms. We went over to Roosevelt Island a lot with the castle over there that used to go on fire because we had the closest tower ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most of it was
Big
apartments.
buildings over there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. I think they were just a fast truck at that job, that 5th alarm we went to the other day, but they
He
put
was
them
saying
right,
that
put
earlier.
them right to work. Yeah, but they they asked for another fast truck and they put 163 to work. So
Hmm.
they were doing it. The Warriors.
Yeah, they were good. They were good company. They were probably doing about 2,500, 2,600 runs at the time.
Oh,
You know,
it's not bad.
no, they're medium. Most
Yeah,
of
and a lot
most
of
of my
pull
other
boxes
friends
over
all
there,
went
too.
to Brooklyn from
Uh-huh.
Comac. Eddie Monahan started out in 217. Danny Brandenburger went to 231. Larry Schneckerberger went to 231. But I didn't know much about the city. They all were much more interested in it from a younger age. So
Right.
the one captain in Comac, he's the one that steered me into 163.
Huh.
And you know, sometimes I don't regret anything. I look back at things and it just there was always some part of it that did something good for me. So
Right.
it worked out good.
How'd you
And,
get to know Monahan? I mean, you're a tall guy. He's a little. He's all the way at the other end, man.
yeah,
He
but
yelled down to him, "Hey, Ed!"
he's a good guy though. But we knew each other from Comac.
Ah, all right.
Yeah.
So you spent actually you went to chauffeur school pretty early, huh? You got there in '82. You went to chauffeur school in
because
'83.
I had 8 years in as a volunteer, and I was a driver out there. I think that's one of the reasons the captain asked me to go, because a lot of the other guys did not want to go.
Uh-huh.
And he knew that he had the 4 chauffeurs that had a lot of time on were going to probably retire, so he needed some backup chauffeurs. So I went. Like I said, I took every opportunity I can. Anything
Right.
I could learn to make me better and at the job, that's what I did.
I like it.
And it worked out. I can
Yeah.
remember a couple of them, that I wish I wasn't driving, but
As the mirrors were going like this, boing, boing, boing.
yeah.
I had a couple of them.
Oh yeah, it was good.
You drive in the city, you're going to have a couple of them.
Oh yeah.
Well, especially around there, man. There's some tight
Yeah.
streets over there with the tower ladder.
Yeah, but I think that was also one of the qualifications that I had that helped me when they picked volunteers for HazMat. They needed chauffeurs too. You had 2 apparatus, so you needed to have a whole bunch of chauffeurs, and because I already had it, I think that helped.
So
Were
what was
you
that
into
like?
that? I was
Yeah.
going to say, were you into that, Chief? Like in school, or like what? When the thing came up, how did you first find out about it? How did that all happen?
Well,
to
it
you?
came across on the department order that they were looking, and to be honest, I hadn't really given any thought to it before. Really, I think what drove me to think about it was, as I had mentioned, I had come into the fire service. Like I said, I turned the job down for 2.5 years. I was doing the delicatessen in a butcher shop, and I was going to make my millions with my partner. But after a couple of years of just throwing most of the money back into the business to try and build it up, we decided, my wife and I, to go for a family. We needed to get some more stability in my working career and benefits and stuff like that. So the list happened to be still open, and Danny and Eddie and Larry talked me into seeing if they would still take me. So I called them up. They said, sure, come on down. The next thing I knew was in the next class. And it was a big change for me, working 15, 16, 17 hours a day on your feet, 7 days a week, to going into a firehouse where you went in, you did roll call, you closed the doors, and you locked out the world until you had a call. When the call came in, you got on a truck, you went out, you did what you had to do, and you came back, closed the doors, and shut out the world. So from talking to people so many hours a day to just being locked indoors,
Right.
it looked like it might be a different story going into the HazMat company, which was going to go to all 5 boroughs and be out all the time. So, I took that opportunity.
When did they start? When did the first rumblings start about creating a dedicated HazMat?
Probably somewhere in '83. As you had said earlier, Rescue 4 was doing that as their second mission after the heavy rescue work. 1 and 5 already had scuba. I think 2 had scuba, 3 had collapse. And in 1980, when we had that LPG tanker up on the George Washington Bridge that shut down the entire Northeast for like 16 hours, they decided they needed to have a unit that was capable of handling those types of events. And Rescue 4 did that. They filled that role for a couple of years. They had Norbert Meehan as the captain, and Jack Calderon as one of the lieutenants. I forget who the other. Dylan was still there in 4, I think, and I don't know who the last one was. It might have been Williams before he passed. But they started to go to the other boroughs too many times, and the president of Queens, the Queensborough president, who pushed hard to start to get the HazMat into Queens, did that because they were losing their heavy rescue to the other boroughs every time they had to go out to do a HazMat call. So he wanted to maintain 4 as the heavy rescue in Queens, so he pushed for the dedicated unit, and that's how it came about, and that's how we ended
political.
up. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
everything is political and or money.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that. Really does. So
So they put it out on the order, and what do? You just was there any kind of interview, or was there?
Yeah, there was an interview. The first captain, Joe Gallagher, and Al Jordan, Joe Jordan's father.
John's dad. Wow.
Yeah.
No way. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He wasn't in
didn't know
4, but he was picked for the HazMat company, and they did most of the
I did know that.
interviewing. And it was good. I think between being a chauffeur, having some experience out in Comac, it didn't probably hurt that Al Jordan was in Hop Hog, and also the fact that I had chemistry in high school and college probably helped a little bit. So they had like 60 guys sign up and to volunteer, and they ended up picking 35, which I give them a lot of credit. They did a very good job of selecting a wide group of people. We had Vinnie Doherty, who had a degree in chemistry. Kevin Cully had a degree in chemistry. You had some of the senior guys like Little Hoppy, John Hopkins from Rescue 2, and you had Nat Russo from over there in Brooklyn as well. Jimmy Mushlet from the Bronx, all like senior guys. Billy Bolkeman, a senior guy, but he was an exterminator on the outside, so he knew a lot about chemicals and pesticides. John Norman, with his background, his degree in fire protection, and his background with sprinklers and fire protection systems and plumbing for the sprinkler systems. Chris Waters, who did a lot of teaching for HazMat at our academy. He was a substitute high school chemistry teacher up in Westchester or above where he lived. He ended up becoming the lead HazMat for the National Fire Academy when he retired. Just Jack Calderon came over as one of the lieutenants.
Wow,
Is that
crazy.
the guy into the rigs, Jack Calderon?
Yeah, he does the Fire Apparatus magazine.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was probably one of the longest serving battalion chiefs. He was another one of those guys that rose through the ranks very quickly, but then just settled in as a battalion chief. I don't know if he ever even took the deputy's test, and he was a battalion chief for probably close to 25 years.
Wow.
But he was more involved in the apparatus, but very good on the HazMat stuff, and just it was good to have him there. Kevin Smith, Ray Meisenheimer.
Oh, I didn't know Kevin Smith was a charter member.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe he had to be young then, right? I mean,
which Kevin Smith, who died in 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a charter member. He came out of the Tin House, 222. Who else came out of there? Kevin Cully, I think, came out of there. Kevin was great. Phil McGardle, Rick
Billy
Gimble.
Mack.
Yeah,
Rick Gimble was a charter member.
Oh yeah,
Gimble's I didn't know that.
Ricky Mumbles. I love Rick.
Yeah, great guy, and another sharp guy. We had a lot of good people there, and we all
Talented guys, right? I mean, rescue guys, chemistry guys. That was
How long do you think, Chief? Like, Kevin and I know, just starting the squad. How long do you think it took to get up to speed? Did you guys go to classes and schools and stuff like that, like we did? How was it back then?
Yeah, we did, but the schools that you guys were set up to do were not in place at that time. Like I said earlier, every one of us took a role in the company. who was it? Mel. What was Mel's real name? Bob Falzone. He came out of 115 truck, but he did a lot. He took over the commissary and started to get all of the equipment that we needed, kitchen utensils and linen and stuff like that, because none of that was provided. You had to get that yourself. And the single engine 288 didn't have all of that. I took level B suits and I researched those. Somebody else did level A. Somebody did boots. Phil McGardle took schools. And he's the one that started to set up our contacts at the National Fire Academy, so that everybody then started to go to the site ops class as well as the chemistry class. And then he also started later on in 96, started working on the live agent school when it was still over in Anniston, not where it is now. Or it's still in Anniston, but it was still under the Department of Defense. It was still under the Army, and not a contract. So those schools started to get set up.
Did you guys? Was it structured the same way? 7 guys, an entry guy, 2 entry guys, 2 backup.
It was initially set up as 1 officer and 7 firefighters, and every position had to be a HazMat member.
Oh,
and that went for about 6 months. And then with the people going to school and vacations and whatnot, the overtime started to rise up. Nowhere near where it is today, but it was getting to be higher than what was the average at the time. So then we went to a 4-6 battalion pool, where they had each of the companies in the 4-6 battalion had some members that volunteered and were trained to come in as the 6th and 7th member of the on-duty tour. So we had 1 and 5 had to be trained and assigned, and the other 2 could come out of the 4-6 pool.
And they were just decon, right? I think that's what it was.
Just
when we
decon. Yeah, that was the position they got. But there were some of them that really took to it and did it good. That was how we got Jack Hack. He came out of
God bless you. 292, right? Didn't he go to?
Oh, yeah. Have a clove of garlic in his pocket.
Garlic. Well, you did. Well, God bless you.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Hey, Jack, I just ran over somebody on the LIE. You did now. Well, God bless you.
Yeah, he was a character, but he came out of 287. There was another guy that came out of
287. He was. I'm sorry, right?
Yeah, 138 was Vinny Zano, who came over quite a bit. I mean, Vinny Zano, he loved it. I swear it. He was probably making $5,000 a year just in details on the portal to portal.
Wow.
Yeah. Why did they start taking 288 guys and just detail them across the floor?
Some of them came over, but not all of them. Some early ones did.
Joey Iovino.
Oh, Joey Iovino, right?
Yeah, Joe and Nicky Riaz and a couple of the others, but some of the others didn't want any part of it and didn't have to.
What made them choose 288's quarters? Just because they had a single bay open, or was there any thought?
Well, it had to be in Queens because of the politics. It had the single bay open, and it was right there on the expressway, so you could go into Manhattan, you can get onto the VQE, you could get to the Bronx. So it was very convenient in terms of traffic wise.
Right, but there was that was the choice right from the start. There was no other ones that were in consideration.
Yeah, there might have been some other discussion, but I wasn't aware of it at that time. I was just a fireman at that time.
What was like your earliest recollection of like a job that you went to with the mat that you were like, holy shit. Like it wasn't just an oil spill or something, like it was like chlorine or something, you know, like at the
there were a couple of those. But of course, then at that time too, we were the only ones with 1-hour cylinders. So we went to every high-rise fire. We went to every underground fire. We went to every airport box. So we went on a lot of those calls because just of the air cylinders that we had. We also had thermal imaging and listening devices before anybody else. The listening devices, what got us that and, oh God, what was his name? Oh, Gil Sullivan. Gil Sullivan was a charter member. He would have given his left leg to go to the Boston Fire Department. And he was good friends with this guy up in Boston, Artie Leary, who would have given
Oh, yeah.
his left
Yeah,
leg
yeah,
to be part of the FDNY. And Gil was coming back from Boston one time when the L'Ambiance Plaza collapsed in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1987. And he stopped by to buff it, and he saw what was going on, and he saw that they were having trouble locating some of the workers, and told them that, hey, HazMat Company 1 and the FDNY has thermal imaging and listening devices. And they made a call in for a request for mutual aid. And Vinnie Doherty and I were on entry that night. We got selected we were put in a squad car with the equipment, driven to the Connecticut line, picked up by Connecticut troopers, and driven up to Bridgeport. And with Gil, we were clamoring around in the collapsed building, trying to locate and listen for any survivors. I always tell this in some of my classes. We look at places, we don't have a lot of big industrial. Like you want to talk about industrial hazmat, you go to Houston or something like that. But we get research stuff, and that's what scares me more. You go to a big industrial complex, and they're working on chemicals, and they're manufacturing them in volume, and they've already been worked out. The ones that scare me are in the research facilities where some scientist in a white coat scribbled with doctor's handwriting on a white label on a jar.
Yeah.
The only one that knows what's in the jar.
Like the Rockefeller
Like in
Institute.
college. Yeah, we went to colleges a few times, right? And all
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
stuff.
on the Upper East Side, the Rockefeller Institute.
Yeah.
They're experimenting on crazy shit.
Yeah. And there's no safety data sheet for that stuff. He doesn't even know what's in the jar yet. So we had a call one time to a fire in a laboratory, and I think it was Rick Gimbel and I were on entry that day, and we got there and we were like, Doc, the fire's out, but you got the hazmat here. What do you want us to do? And he said, well, the fire was in an incubator, and we need you to go inside and see if anything got out of the incubator. What was in there? Some sort of creature or an animal? Is it on the ceiling behind the door? Is it going to jump
that's
out
when
at
you're
us?
like, hey, Rick, you got it. All right.
Go get him. Blah, 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 blah.
So scary stuff like that. And we got a lot of nonsense stuff. Transportation, you still get those. We get a lot of dump fires. The landfills at the time were having a lot of methane fires underneath. You had the leaching of the oils out of the landfill in Brooklyn off of the Belt Parkway. There was one that Phil McGardle and I had in the New York Sports Club. In a lower level, they had a swimming pool. It's like 2 stories below ground.
Chlorine.
And we got called there for a vapor cloud. First 2 units saw it, backed out, and called us. And when we got there, we figured, okay, vapor cloud will go in level Bs, just because of the environment and the 2 levels down. And we got down there was no vapor cloud, so we started to do a recon down there. And there was a little room off to the side, and that was apparently where they kept their pool chemicals. And while we were in there, the heat turned on. And what had happened was they stored cardboard boxes of their pool chemicals on top of the floor, and the heat pipe wasn't completely submerged in the concrete. It was above the concrete level. So it actually pyrolyzed the cardboard and started to melt the plastic containers. So now all of the bleaching compounds and the acid compounds were coming out and heating up and vaporizing. It came out so fast that Phil and I couldn't even get out of a 10 by 10 room before we lost complete visibility, and we couldn't even see the pool anymore. So
even without zero visibility, you ain't getting out of a 10 by 10 big Philly Mac anyway. So
yeah.
So you ran into this guy down there, right? This guy was down there?
Yeah, that was him.
let's see if it escaped.
Unless you're going for a touchdown, you want Philly Mac Daddy, leading the way. Then,
hey, let me tell you, Phil was great. He was a really sharp guy. He could be a pain in the neck and be a bull in the china shop. And, if it wasn't his way, there was no other way. But a lot of times he was right. Not all the time, but a lot of times he had some good thoughts. So
Did he have his jumpsuit on?
We might not have had them at that time yet, but
What the
He wore that jumpsuit.
You took a
every
shower
time.
in the jumpsuit, bro.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah.
He used to break his chops. So I mean, he's such a good sport,
He's
you know.
oh, absolutely.
You know, when he lost
He,
his son, you know, just torture.
He reached his trigger point a couple of times.
Yeah.
I saw him take one guy. I don't know if you remember this guy, Tommy Nusa.
Yeah, I remember
I
Tommy.
know that
Nusa.
name. Yeah.
Yeah, Nusa. Big cigarette smoker.
Oh man, he was like four packs a day.
Yeah.
But he made a comment in front of Phil's kids one day about Phil.
Yeah.
And I saw Phil take him by the throat with one hand and lift him about 3 feet off the ground and put him on the brick column between the two bays and gave him one of these.
Yeah.
And Tommy's legs were like this against the brick.
Yeah, he just
Got his Irish up.
Oh, yeah.
Kev's like that all the time.
What?
Nothing.
You know what's so funny is when we got there as the squad. When I think back, like all the old timers that were there, like Neil Yank, right? It was Yank.
Mm-hmm.
It was who was the guy from 154? Carey.
Oh, Dennis
Right?
Carey.
Dennis,
Carey. I mean, some of those
one-eye.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
Great
Some of those
guys.
guys are great. Al Schwartz was there. He was great. Dick
Great
Keller.
guys.
Who was the guy who was a locksmith?
That was Jimmy Oliveri.
Oh, Jimmy Oliveira.
He still comes. He still
comes to
shows
the
up
firehouse
all-
on 9/11. all the
Yeah.
time.
9/11
He
every
was,
year.
he was partner or owner of the Maspeth Locksmith.
Right.
Yeah.
He was a
Went
member
to
of
school with his
Rescue.
daughter. Cool.
He was a
He
member
did?
of Rescue 4. He came
Right.
over with the HazMat. He got promoted out to a lieutenant to the 3-5 Battalion, and then came back as a lieutenant in HazMat for a while.
Hmm.
You know, he was one of those guys, and I was a little bit like this, but Jimmy was a real big one, where as a fireman, he also raced cars in Englishtown, New Jersey, on the side, but he lived close. So he was a Minuteman. And most of the time, you could hear him squealing his wheels coming around the corner at 4 or 5 minutes after 9 o'clock in the morning. And he'd jump out in dungarees and a T-shirt. But when he came back as a lieutenant, the uniform was prim and proper, and everybody better be in uniform. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
I remember him driving the first piece one night, and I was following him in the second. We had a call for a spill in the police academy in Manhattan. Yeah, that's the one. The old Mac engine.
Wow, look at that
So
thing.
you had that and the Mac behind you, right? Those were your two rigs?
Yeah, I guess that's the one behind it. Yeah, it looks. No, I don't know.
What is
So that was your first rig, Chief?
That was the second piece, the second piece.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it came,
like
if I remember correctly, I think it came from 26 engine.
really.
Still has a little green on it.
The decon pool at the top, it looks like. Is that a decon pool? Right to the top of it?
There might have been airbags.
Oh, maybe it was the airbags.
We
Hey,
had
God,
big-
where's that picture of the chief? That young picture.
Which
We had one picture of the chief.
this one?
No, young.
Oh, that's when he's
Oh,
a chief.
if I
This one?
looked young
That
there,
Man,
we also.
Well, So
one
you
of
had a
the
hood on back then, huh, Chief?
probably one of the first companies that had hoods. There were some individuals that had bought them themselves, but I think we were the first company that had them.
How come you guys never thought to have your own color front piece? It was a blue one, like the rescues, because the Marines got
Because
green.
we were in the Special Operations Command, and that it just that was decided above my pay level at that time.
As you said, you were only a fireman then.
Only a fireman. So
I was going to ask you to show that picture. So what capabilities did you have back then? Because I was just talking to my wife today. I'm like, even when we started, right, Lou? They had the resource center, but it was mostly books and your cell phone and your
All
phone.
books.
And you would be
All
calling
books.
DEC, you'd be doing this. As
It was
compared
all
today,
books.
they got it's like
everything's on your phone today.
yeah, but even so, all the meters that they have like that. What is that? Mass spectrometer and all this other
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
that they have
Oh, my
in
God,
the
they have-
in the resource center.
Mhm.
It's amazing how
And it just continues to improve. The technology is better and better today, but it still comes down to understanding the information that's collected by the meter, how to interpret it, and how to apply it to a plan. And You still got that's still the same. You still have to do that.
What were the first meters and equipment that you guys had early on?
Well, there certainly weren't 4 and 5 gas meters back then.
No.
We had the old
Single.
squeeze
Squeeze
pump,
one?
Single
Yeah.
one, yeah.
the squeeze pump. What was it?
Combustible meters, the
Yeah, it
LEL?
what was the term? There's the 3 letters. I don't know, but it was an MSA meter, and it combustible gas indicator, CGI, and that does happen when you get a little older. You get these senior moments.
You're allowed.
I get them now.
Gonzo knows.
What?
But,
Oh,
Man, it's 1-2 punch.
we had that. We still had radiation meters.
the Ludlums.
We probably started to acquire Ludlums. I don't think we had them right away, but we got them soon after. But we had the old civilian defense yellow meters, the 700s and the 715s that the engine companies all had. If you remember, every Wednesday night at 8:00,
You have to go on
It
the
was-
roof.
go up on the roof, take the batteries, put them in. And, those instruments were still good. They still work. They just have to be calibrated like everything else on a regular basis. Radiation hasn't changed. Radiation is the same now as it was then. And it's one of the only, there you go. It's one
Wow.
of the only hazards that we have where we can take out a meter and tell you it's either there or it's not.
Mhm.
We don't have any other meter like that for any other chemical. We have, still a lot of unknowns out there.
I told you my wife, you were my wife's favorite fireman. My wife never watches the show, but she's watching this show because she loves Chief Ingram. She just texted me something. I don't even know what it is. CMS tubes. Whatever CMS tubes are. I don't know what the hell that
Oh,
is.
those are colorimetrics tubes. We had those as well. She's right.
See? HazMat nerd, my wife.
Hey, she was a good salesperson. She knew
Yeah,
all
she
that
loved
equipment,
it.
and yeah, well, that's why she was with us a lot, because we were looking for all the information from every source, and she was a good source of information. So,
What she's
But,
doing with me, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what
When
she's
did
doing with me.
you? How long were you there when you started studying? Like, when did you start thinking about that? Was that happening
Yeah,
right away?
it's a good question. I always say I never really studied, but after the committee work was done and all of that stuff, anytime I was in house watch, I just read. I read and I read and I read, and eventually enough of it stuck. And it wasn't really in the beginning to get promoted, although most people that know me fairly well know that I'm an A-type personality, and I always want to try and get better and better. But it was more just to learn the job and to really be safer. So I did that. I did go to fire tech for a couple of years, but I never was in a study group. In fact, there were 4 of us studying in the fire house in HazMat: Kevin Cully, Vinny Doherty, John Chrissy, and myself.
John
And
Creasy.
yeah, we all. He was a funny guy. We
He
all
was.
did our own studying. And we all just took time in the firehouse after everything else was done to just to read and study. That was it. But yeah, so right from the get-go, even in 163, I was reading all the time. And of course, even back then, and I'm sure it's still today, when you get assigned out of the academy to a fire company, the captain would bring us in and say, "Okay, you're in the truck or you're in the engine. Here's the books that you're going to read first. You're going to read engine operations. You're going to read ladder operations. Then you're going to go here, and these are the types of buildings. So you're going to read those units." And it just continued from there.
So you're promoted after. Before that, you go to flips. You go to teach the guys in flips, right? HazMat courses.
Well, not to teach them, but they decided they picked a couple of us that went to flips to take the Fire Service Instructor I week and to get certified in that, because now they were starting to send us out to the schools, and they wanted, when the initial people would go out to the schools, to come back into the company and share that information in a a good format like an instructor would, so that we would increase the learning speed exponentially by having it in the firehouse and sharing it instead of having to wait until everybody got to every school.
Right, so you're just doing your own in-house training. You guys would go and come back and teach it to the guys. That's where when they
Absolutely.
went,
Yep.
they were already up to speed on, or semi up to speed.
Yeah, it also made it easier for the following guys in the classes. Like particularly that chemistry class one that they had at the National Fire Academy. If you hadn't had chemistry at all before, and some of the members didn't. They didn't have it in high school. Some of the guys were older. They didn't go to college back then, and to try and take that course without that background was really difficult. So it was helpful to have them see some of it before they went down there.
Hey Lou, good thing we had Dr. Schubert in high school teaching us chemistry. Right?
The periodic table.
Yeah.
See? Come on.
Yeah, he's probably dead now. He was old back then. So
he's in the dirt.
I think most of the chemistry teachers back then were that old.
Yeah, he was old, man.
You ain't lying.
You ain't lying. So then you get promoted to lieutenant and assigned to the 3-5 Battalion.
Yeah.
Well, not that long, right? For about a year.
Only about a year.
Right.
And then Tom Fitzpatrick, who was a captain, who was one of the lead instructors for FLTSP at the time, he was tasked with developing the HazMat operations because they had just recently, a couple of years before, passed the HazMat training standards from OSHA. And you had to have a HazMat plan in writing, and you had to have a program for training in place by, I think it was 90, but the fire department probably asked for an extension. And they tasked Tom to do that. And Tom, although he knew a fair amount about HazMat, he asked me to come in and help him write that program. Initially, I didn't like the program. Tom didn't either, but we were told it was going to be develop a lesson plan that could be sent to the company offices, and the company offices would deliver it to the men.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know if I'm. Yeah.
It didn't go over well. It really didn't. We got about five lessons in, and we were able to show that the results weren't that good. And it wasn't the company officer's fault. They did not have the background or the training to deliver the material, let alone answer questions that the members had. So we were able to then convince them to make it a delivered program. And looked at training sites. We picked an engine company in the Bronx, one in Staten Island, the Academy, and the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And we set up 4 off-site training centers. And then at that time, I had Pete Stuebe working with me and George Meyers. And we selected about 15 instructors and gave them a training period of a week or 2. And then we broke them up to the different sections, sites, and then we started bringing all the companies out to get their initial HazMat training so we can comply with the law on the one hand, but actually just to try and make the members healthier and safer, understanding what kind of hazards were out there.
What places did you work while you were bouncing around the 3-5 anyway?
I worked in 105. I worked in 102. Did covered vacations in there. It did probably put me more in the 3-2 because that just being a hard area to get to, they had a lot of openings down there. So I saw working 202, 101, 204. I
like 204. I worked there a few times. That was a good spot.
Was
they're closing that company down?
Yeah. Was the rehab house still across the street when you got there?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't remember that.
If you don't remember,
it probably 2000. Yeah, 2002.
Yeah, because it was an interesting neighborhood at the time.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I think it was on the way up probably when I was there.
Yeah. Well, they all were. I mean, even when I worked in 102 is nothing the way it was now.
Right.
It was very different back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had some good fires down in that. Even some good fires. Probably had my first working fire as a lieutenant in 202 engine in a 2-story home over there on the water side of the Gowanus. Yeah, it was some old buildings down there, and some of the fires were good.
They're just stuck in the corner over there. They don't have such a small area there. That's really the problem with those.
Yeah. But
did you feel like it took you a while to get back in the swing of going back as to a regular company? Yeah.
Probably even more as a captain. Even though I had that time, we talked earlier, the first couple of tours were kind of interesting, but the firemen, it wasn't so different. But because you were in the one area. You didn't get sent all over. As a captain, I got sent to different boroughs. And, like the first time I got sent to Manhattan, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Get the roll call done, do my log journal entries, and then go upstairs and take out the books for the buildings in that area. And, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? What So it was a lot of that. Going back and forth. Back and forth was very tough. From fire to hazmat, fire to hazmat, fire to hazmat. It was tough.
It makes you a well-rounded fireman, though, no doubt, right?
Well, it certainly gave me a broad horizon of experience. Yeah,
right.
I told you earlier, the first 2 tours as a captain were in 329. The first night tour was in 303. My 4th night tour, Saturday afternoon, I get a phone call from the division, and they say, Captain Ingram, you're covering in the 50 Battalion tonight. You're ABCing. And I was like,
mate,
do you have the right number? Who are you talking to?
Ingram.
So my 4th tour, I was in ABC as a captain. And I can remember it was great because the chauffeur that I had, the aide that I had that night, had 27 years on the job. The 17 of them as an aide in the 50, and the 10 before that, he was in 127 truck. So, I mean, he knew the area. Thank God, I forget his name, but he was really helpful and good because I covered there a couple of times as an ABC. But that night, that tour in the battalion, at 9:00, I get a phone call from the dispatcher for an overcrowding at a social club down the road off of Jamaica.
You're like, what the hell am I going to do here?
Fire prevention. I haven't done fire prevention since I left 163.
It's like BI.
I was going to say, there's the BI.
Oh, beat you to it, John.
Beat you to it. Damn it.
So we're driving down the road, and up ahead, I could see there's like a dozen cop cars, lights going on. There's a crowd of like 500, 600 people out in the street. Yeah. And I get up there and I walk over to one of the officers, and he says, okay, good. We got a problem here. This is a one-night show in this vacant facility. They oversold the event by 500 or 600 people. All these people out here have tickets, but they're not letting them in. We think it's overcrowded. We want you to go in and check.
Yeah, it's overcrowded. I'll see you later.
All you gotta do is open the door. You're like, yep, that's overcrowded.
I went inside. There was a band on the stage. Everybody in the place was at a table in a chair. There was no standing. I checked all the exit doors. None of them were chain locked. They were all with push bars. I went in the office. He had the temporary C of O for up to 1,000 people. I said, okay, it looks good. I went outside. I saw the officer, and I said, everything on the inside is good. The outside is yours. See you later.
Don't call me back.
Yeah. Call me back if there's a problem.
You have to say that. Don't call me back unless there's a problem.
As a new lieutenant, I got my I came out of the class. It was right after the Happy Land Social Club. So I did several months until the next lieutenant's class doing social club task force at night.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Man, that was interesting. 1 sergeant, 2 police officers, 1 building inspector, and 1 fire lieutenant. I can remember going to some of those social clubs where I'd be standing outside. The sergeant would be talking inside. And, I'd say to one of the cops, how many guns you think are inside? And he says, a hell of a lot more than out here.
I wanted to ask you, when they started HazMat 1 in '84, what was the rest of the country doing? Were there other dedicated hazmats first, or where were we in respect
We were
to?
probably within the first 5 or 10. We
Mhm.
weren't the first. A couple that come to mind: Jacksonville, Florida, had one early on. They had a port down there. They had a lot of materials coming in down there. And Ron, what was his name? Ron, whatever. He was a captain in their department, and he started a lot of that. In fact, one of the first seminars we did, his company came up and did a training seminar out at the Hicksville Volunteer Fire Department, which had a hazmat team for many years. I'm not sure if they still do, but they put a training session on out there. So a bunch of us went out there for that training. Houston's is fairly old. There's a couple others around the country, but we're certainly within the top 5 or 10 first ones, and a lot of them weren't dedicated.
Right.
They did a split duty like Rescue 4 did initially.
Right. Yeah.
When you got promoted to captain, did you feel like you wanted to stay out, or did you feel like they were, because you had so much experience, that you were going to be called back to come back into, kind of like just SOC in general? Like if you're out and what were your plans?
I think in the back of my mind at that time, at some point, I wanted to come back as the captain of HazMat and make, some changes in there that I thought would be beneficial to the company. But being back out in the field, I was happy getting back out there and getting that experience as well. It was tough. I got promoted probably about 2 years into the captain's list. And for that first year or so, there had been a delay in the captain's list getting out. So a lot of the captains who were already out there were doing a lot of ABCing. And as they were starting to retire, the first year and a half or so of new captains took all the spots. So I never really had a spot for the 94, 95, 96. For over about 2.5 years as a captain, I bounced. And
you were UFO in 303 for about a year almost, right? Or maybe less than.
Yeah, 9 months. Yeah, but
that's a good spot.
Oh, absolutely. And I told you earlier, that was so beneficial to me to get me back in the groove of firefighting from the HazMat end as a lieutenant. So it was great. And they were a good crew there. They had, both good companies. They always drew good people, good firefighters, good officers from other, who got promoted out of Brooklyn mostly, but a couple from the Bronx. They were good. Olson was there. Billy Olson he actually got the spot as a captain in 126. I had put in for that too, but he had more time and he got that one.
Did you want to put in and stay out there and put in for some spots?
Yeah, I put in for there. I put in for 293. I like that company. It was a single engine over there towards Atlantic. Who was that? Bobby out of 176 got that one. I put in for every time the order came out. I put in for stuff, but I finally got 273. But I got 273. Nobody else wanted to put in for it. And there were a couple of problems there. One of them was the captain, Platt, was put there as a disciplinary move. The way I understand it, he was a captain in a tower ladder up in the Bronx and was caught taking the tower ladder to overlook the Yonkers Raceway for the races.
Something wrong with that?
So he was put there, but
only if you're throwing a couple over here.
A few shekels.
Give me 2 on a hot 4 over here. Give me 2 over here.
Yeah, so between that, he was a senior captain, so he was ABCing a lot. So he was never in the quarters. And the lieutenant opposite him was a character that the first time I met him in the morning, I came in on a day tour to relieve him. He says, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and did you know I'm a millionaire?" that was that was how he introduced himself to me. He had
You
apparently,
should have pulled the Jack Hack on him. Oh yeah, well,
God
God bless
bless
you.
yeah, well,
Some garlic.
he might have had money, but he was a knucklehead.
Yeah,
He
that's
didn't get
plenty of
along
those.
with anybody. He had a lot of problems with firefighters, and I had to give command discipline to a fireman there because of he locked himself and the lieutenant into the office one day and was going after him, and yeah, you can't have that kind of stuff.
You should have said, "Take it in the basement, fellas."
Those guys ran around.
Yeah, it was the
Even
fact
back
that he
then, they
broke
ran
the
around.
office door that pissed me off. It wasn't the fact that they were fighting,
Yeah,
but
they do some running around there, right? They're
Yeah.
heavily
Runs
populated.
around.
yeah, and they also had that phone call, the 911 call from the payphone, and
What
they
was
were
that? I don't remember. What was that?
they called in a run,
Oh, that's
Oh.
right. I remember.
and the
Like towards the
just
end of the
Overtime
tour?
run.
yeah,
Overtime run?
well, it wasn't overtime. Somebody was hurt, and
Oh.
they were trying to create a
Mm.
run.
Ah,
And I guess they waited long enough for one to come in, and it didn't come. But what it did was the discipline hadn't come down yet, so they didn't know what was going to happen.
I remember
So
that.
between not having a captain, the discipline still hanging overhead, and the one lieutenant who didn't do 24s, who was opposite the captain, nobody put in for it. But I liked the area. I knew they were a little busy, and I put in for it and got it.
I remember that when that happened.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
I hope you went there and straightened some shit out, Chief.
For the 11 or 12 months that I was there, I tried my best.
Listen here, fellas. I might only be
This
here
is
for 11
Frushing
months.
here.
Frushing.
He also had 274 down the road who had a firefighter that was transferred out of 120, 231 over to there.
Mhm.
That was in the battalion that caused some people
I remember.
not to be
Mhm.
too happy. I never had a problem with her, but some people did. But it made the area.
Oh, it's just
I guess not.
everybody's on eggshells all the time. You
Yeah.
couldn't do anything.
Yeah. So
So what brings you back into HazMat then?
Well,
Yeah, I gotta
Jack-
get the hell out of there.
Jack Fanning, who I had worked for as a captain, and again, Jack was probably the best mentor that I had in the fire department. I give him so much credit, but learned a lot from him when he was the second captain, and he left there and he went to 332 engine, and from there he went to tech services to run that and computerize it. He did a great job there, but he got promoted to battalion chief, and he took over as the HazMat chief. And I'm forgetting the guy he took it over from. He later became a staff chief.
Who? Not Weinlein.
No. His he was the staff chief over Staten Island and the 8th Division for a while when he was a staff chief. Doesn't matter, but Jack asked me to come back in April of '97. We talked earlier at the end of '96. Jack and Phil and the other people that he had working for him over in HazMat Ops had started to do not only the CPC training for the first 10 ladder trucks, but they also had started to work on the training for Rescue 5, Squad 1, and Squad 41, and also the first 10 HazTac ambulance units. So when Jack asked, he saw that the need for a more permanent school and a staff, instead of trying to do it part-time, was a critical issue. He asked me to come back over and put the school together and started running up in there and take over the training for the CPCs and the HazTac and the ongoing HazMat training. And the first two people I brought over were Tony Musafidi and Dave Fenton, was a lieutenant from the EMS side, so that we had capabilities for both the medical and fire side of the operations. And it just grew from there.
What exactly is the HazTac responsible for? If it's like, I kind of know what they are, but I don't.
Yeah. They actually were around for quite a while. We merged in '96 EMS
Right.
from health and hospitals into the fire. We worked with EMS when they were under health and hospitals from the time we were a charter group in '84 to '96. They had a special operations division. Had some people in there that did a lot for the department when they merged and moved on to bigger and better things at the state and federal level. One guy became Jerry. Where's Jerry? There's about 5 or 6 of them. They went on to health and hospitals at the federal level. They went to Homeland Security at the state, but they worked with us. And their initial mission was they were going to do the medical monitoring for the hazmats on the scene, the pre-entry and post-entry vitals. But when we started to train them in HazTac, they got training in hazardous materials, understanding chemicals, understanding more of the biologicals, the radiologicals, but the treatment aspect for it. And being able to go into a contaminated environment, because we trained them in breathing apparatus, we trained them in chemical ensembles, so that they could go in and do the quick triage if we had multiple casualties, and then tell extraction teams, CPCs, rescues, squads, hazmat, which ones would be the priority to pull out. Or they could start to do antidotes in the hot zone if needed on their way out.
The old antidote kits.
Yeah. They've grown quite a bit now. And how many years? 4 or 5 years now. They've been hosting this the medical special operations seminars conference over at the Rock, right?
Yeah, they've been going to, when I was going to some of the schools, or the refreshers actually by that time, they were going through collapse. They were going through all of those same courses that the squads were going through.
Yeah, well, the ones with the collapse, those are the special paramedic units, the rescue HazTac, that get that training so they can go into the hole with the rescue squad members.
Stuff and all that
Yep. And would work with the doctor if the doctor had to go in there and amputate, a limb to save the rest of the person.
Rescue medic. That's what it
Yep,
is. Thank
that's it. Rescue. Thank you. Great picture.
There you go, Gons. I take it back now. I won't bust your balls anymore. You're on top of things. Good job.
It's good so far for me. I'm with you. We were together right from the Star of David.
Wait.
What's going on?
And there's the hashtag.
4-3 Henry. 4-3 Henry. What's going on?
What?
That's why I put that one up there.
That was interesting. They were an interesting challenge for us when we started to issue APRs after 9/11, because up until that point they did not have a facial hair grooming standard.
Right.
So we had to make exceptions for some of their individuals that had beards. So
Grandfathered in, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, some of them were. Yeah.
So this is, I guess, in May of '98. Just when we were becoming a squad, you were Chief Fanning's XO. Is that this time that we're talking about?
Yeah, after setting the school up and running it for a period of time, I guess a little over a year and a half, then HazMat Operations got big enough that Jack needed an XO. He was also traveling a lot between himself, Ray Downey, and Dario Gonzalez, the 3 leads for the USAR team. They were not only doing USAR training, the USAR responses, they were doing the meetings for that. And Jack was also teaching for the IAFF. So in his absence, he needed an XO that could fill in when he was gone. So he asked me to do that. And at that time, we brought Vinny Doherty had gotten promoted to captain, and we brought him over to the school, and he took over the lead on the school.
So for those who don't know what an XO is, you're just the executive officer for Fanning. So you fill in when he's out, or they send you things before you bring it to Fanning.
Right-hand man.
Right?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Right. Right. Like Louis is with me. Louis is my XO, right, Lou?
XOXO, baby.
Yeah,
Oh, Pickford said that to Fish. XO to Fatso.
that was me, Fatso to XO.
Fatso to XO. That was so funny, man.
He was somebody's XO, I said. So when you call him on the radio, do you say Fatso to XO?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So let's see.
Is that proper etiquette?
We're very not politically correct on this show, Chief.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Where are we going? There was something. Oh, so 98. You train rescues 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Running classes, 3 classes a time for a few months.
Yeah, we had already started, and we're trying to complete the squad training for HazMat. The other squads, 18, 61, 270, the rest of the squads. And while we were winding down with that is when Commissioner Von Essen said we want to do the other 4 rescues too. And it had to be done by the end of June, the end of the where the funding would be available from that fiscal year. So we ended up doing 3 classes at a time, starting them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and going until each one was done, and starting new ones until we got it all accomplished. It was also one of the few times that I got caught by OSHA for putting out equipment on the apparatus when it came in, but we didn't have in training, so we didn't train the members. So I had to go and pull all that equipment off the apparatus, bring everybody back, train them on that equipment before I could reissue it to the units. So that was a learning lesson that we tried
who ratted
to.
You out? Was it Fieri? No.
No.
Who was that? Cool.
It doesn't matter who it was, because
who ratted them out? Was it Fieri?
in all reality, they were right.
Tommy Adazuski or Ed Tomaszewski, one of them.
It's Tomaszewski. That's who ratted you out.
Yeah, and
he had 2 different names. That's why.
even if I
Tomaszewski.
remembered, I wouldn't tell you. But
See that? You can rob a bank with this man. I like it. Loose lips sink ships, Chief. You know what
Listen,
I'm
if
saying?
he doesn't give you the
that
secret
always
sauce
reminds me of a
recipe, he ain't
story
gonna give you
that
the-
Jack told me one time when he was telling new guys coming into the company, don't and that the captain that I knew from Comac. I was actually a elected commissioner in Comac for 21 years with him as well. And whenever we brought new firemen in, he would always say to them, "Look, if you're going to rob a bank, don't wear a Comac Fire Department T-shirt."
Yeah.
And Jack Fanning, when I told him that one day, he said, "Don't laugh. We had a guy that I worked with as a fireman that he would make the meal. He'd go out to buy the meal. He robbed banks while he was getting the meal."
Like legitimately, he would rob banks.
He finally got caught on one of them because he borrowed another fireman's car to go to a store that was a little further away. And
Smart guy.
Yeah,
He
but
got sloppy, Poppy.
But a guy,
very
who doesn't give up the secret sauce, that guy you can trust, Roof. Doesn't give up the Jack in the Box
said
secret
that story,
sauce.
I had a whole new light on the chief. I really did. I mean,
He never gave up.
that's a lot of years to keep that to keep it
Close
in.
to
You
the
know?
vest.
yeah, it's easy. I didn't like it. But no, the fact is that whoever did it didn't matter. The fact was it was right, because we shouldn't be sending equipment out there that the people have been trained on. We don't want people to get hurt. And I used the same information later on when Von Essen told us that he wanted to cut back the initial HazMat training from 80 hours a week to 40. And we had to, even after fighting with it for a month or two, I had to comply. We started putting out some of the squads with 40-hour training weeks instead of 80. Excuse me. And
I remember that.
yeah, we finally convinced them after we tracked and documented that on a couple of occasions, the squads were starting to do neutralization of acids and bases with slurry solutions in the street. And that part had got cut out of the training, but they knew about it from HazMat and they had watched them do it. And we had to stop that. And we used that data to go back to Von Essen and tell them this isn't working. Just because the EPA does a 40-hour class in New Jersey, it doesn't cut for the mission that we have here. If we're expecting them to do this, we got to train them, and we were able to get back the 80 hours. So
we unfortunately we had the 80 hours on overtime, right, Roof? Before we started the squads, it was horrible.
Fortunately, we had the hazmat in quarters so that when we went out
Yeah,
there,
that too.
they did the slurry.
My God, it looks real tough there, Philly. You need help?
Who'd we have over there? John Berna. We had Berna. Love John Berna.
you had a lot of good guys. A lot of good guys. A lot of people that had opinions and strong opinions.
Yeah.
But
You know what? That is true, Chief. For that type of place, you wouldn't think, but it was. It did happen quite a bit where guys bumped heads more than I would think would happen there. Right?
Believe me, I know.
That's pretty interesting. Flynn, right?
Tony reminds me of my first tour back there covering as a lieutenant. I had to separate Phil McGardle and Jimmy Hay in the bunk room.
Oh, Jimmy Hay. I remember him, right?
Yeah.
He went back to 163 as a captain.
Yeah, he was a captain there for a while.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think he got a medal over there, too. I think he made a rescue.
He did. And he had 4, I think he had, what do they call that?
Quads.
Quintuplets or something.
Quadruplets.
Quadruplets. Yeah, he had 4.
Yeah. They're all like 26 now. They're all doing great.
That makes
crazy,
me old.
right?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Good.
But that worked out. That worked out well. Being Jack's XO was really great. Got involved in a lot of the fire department activity at that time. We talked briefly about it, but the clashes that the rescue companies were having with the SOD trucks were becoming a real big problem. It was hitting the press, and we started having matrix discussions with the PD SOD, and on the fire side, it was Frank Crothers, Ray Downey, Jack Fanning, and myself that we were working and negotiating with them on how to create this command structure for these types of incidents, whether it was a single command or a dual command that had to occur. I can remember one time Jack was away and they called for a special meeting, and it was the police commissioner, the fire commissioner, the staffs on both sides. And I get a phone call on my day off at home from Ray Downey. Bob, we're having a meeting at the police commissioner's office in 2 hours. You have to be there. Lights and sirens from Suffolk County through Nassau into the Navy Yard to get my uniform, all my papers, and then over to the 1PP for the meeting. And thank God I stopped and grabbed the papers, because the two commissioners are going back and forth about these problems that we're having between the two, special ops groups, and said, okay. Commissioner Safer at the time on the PD was like, okay, let's hear the issues. Let's get down to the specifics. So he looks at their chiefs of departments. They look at the staff. They look down at Ray. Ray looks at me and says, Bob, give him what you have.
You're the guy.
Yeah. But most people, again, that know me, I'm pretty detailed. I had a list. I probably didn't even make it to 10. And Commissioner Safer said, oh, I see this is going to be a lot more involved. We'll stop this meeting and we'll put the two groups together and they'll work it out and come back to us when it's done. And that's how we got involved with the matrices, to work out those issues. And it was challenging. I told you earlier, the one that really sticks out in my mind was the building collapse. We argued about that for hours, that it should be a fire department thing, right, that we trained for it. So when they finally agreed, the next words out of their mouth was, well, scaffolds aren't part of the building. We'll take scaffold collapse. And there was another 3 or 4 hour discussion just on scaffolds. It was
they wanted HazMat, didn't they?
In my opinion, if Kelly could have gotten HazMat, he would have. And in a way he did, because after 9/11, with Phil Pulaski as his first chief of detectives, and then later on working more directly with Kelly, they reversed the mayoral order of 92 that gave the fire department command of HazMat. And after that, it was then that the police department would be in charge of all terrorism and HazMat incidents until it was determined that no criminal or terrorist activity was involved. So we were no longer in command until they told us.
And do you think that's because all the federal funding that was coming in for hazmat?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are some members of the ESU that are okay with doing the hazmat, but most of them want no part of it.
No.
Yeah.
And most of them, if you had a hazmat incident going on and they're in command and they were going to get involved, but then all of a sudden the person who caused it came out with a gun, they're dropping their suits and they're grabbing their weapons. For them, the hazmat is just secondary, but it's all about money.
Yeah.
All about money.
That's where the federal funding was going, all towards hazmat. And I remember listening on the SOD all the time and hearing, Truck 10 and Truck 1 all making them hazmat runs. And I'm like,
Well, they were going on the white powder runs. They were doing the white powder runs.
Oh,
too.
yeah, but they were doing. I think they were doing it on purpose to build up the amount of runs that they could deem as.
They would make the
hazmat
gas
runs.
leaks. They would make
Correct.
the gas leaks.
That
whatever
goes
their
back.
hazmat-
That goes back way before that.
Yeah.
When Tom Fitzpatrick was still captain in the 90s, and we were doing the first training programs in the early 90s. They told us the police department was going to city council meetings and saying they go to 40,000 hazmat calls a year. Right. And we were only reporting the ones that the hazmat company went to. That was adopted. So we were trying for many years, and it was in flips too. They were trying to get new lieutenants to understand that if we have a code for gas leak, but it also say hazmat.
1080 code 1 or whatever the heck it was. You had to give right, whatever the heck it was. I forget.
It's a numbers game.
The police department it was all a game. I mean, how many times did you go as an officer, Lou, to a call, and when you got done with all the work, it was a 55-gallon drum on the side of the road, and the police car would roll up. You'd manually roll down the window on your apparatus while they hit the electric button on their squad car, and they go, "Hey, Lou, what'd you have?" "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, that's what, no doubt about it.
They write it down, and they had another hazmat call.
No doubt
and we gave them the information.
I remember guys talking about that, Chief, about saying we should give 1080s and all that, but the guys never did it. But just because we weren't, we were doing it all the time. Guys never did it.
Nobody likes to say hazardous materials.
Yeah,
nobody. And if that's a mission that I could leave with another one of those opportunity things, we have to start using those words. I said this to somebody earlier today, another discussion, that I went to the Redmond Symposium this year from the IAFF. It was held in Manhattan. They asked me to participate in the booth there. And while I was there, I listened to the new general president, Kelly, from up in Boston, talk. And in his opening presentation, he brought and introduced probably 6, 7, 8 widows of firefighters who have died from cancer. I like him a lot. I think he's doing great for the IAFF. Not once in his presentation did he use the words hazardous materials. We're not getting those cancers from fires. We get them from hazardous materials at the fires and at every other call we go to. Right behind him was our chief of department, who talked about the importance of training. And I love him too. But then he talked about the training and how it was successfully used in the roof rope operation in the high rise a year ago. It was a great call. But this is a health and safety conference about firefighters. He didn't use the words hazardous materials either in training or in his incident. We have to start accepting that in the fire service. It's not what we signed up for. And we can all say we all lied on our applications. We all put down on our applications that we joined to help our communities. That's BS. We joined because we're excitement junkies and we wanted to go to fires. But it's I know. But it's not, the fires aren't killing us the way hazardous materials are. We have to start accepting those words and using them and meaning it. We put such a big push these last 5 years, 8 years on cancer studies and the washing the hoods, because we're getting it around the neck because we're wearing the hoods over and over, washing the gear after fires, and I even see still pictures in some of the fire engineering, firehouse magazines with dirty gear, with helmets that are half melted. It looks cool, but at some point, firefighters, even in the FDNY, I always say we're the biggest and the best. Not. How about we become the best and the smartest? We can still fight fires and be smart about it and save ourselves and our families.
Mm.
And it comes down to accepting hazardous materials are there and protecting ourselves from them.
Chief, we talk about this on the show a lot. That I had my bunker pants on for 23 hours. Right?
I know.
I mean, it's just what we did, right? And now, as I'm retired, now I'm like, holy, what? Cool,
What's that over there?
I got a
That might be
pain over here.
cancer.
Cool, what is that? My pancreas? What is that? It's
Yeah.
just like this is what
Yeah.
we do now. So we talk about that on the show quite a bit. I mean, towards the end of our careers, the gear was going out. Was getting cleaned. We did have the new helmets, and the culture was starting to change a little bit, but that's going to take time because you had a lot of old timers on there that were.
Yeah, but
Still the
you know
same
what's
way.
happening? We're still seeing that with the newer
With the
generation.
new guys, yeah.
It really, I mean, I still teach for the IAFF, and I still do a fair amount of recruit classes over the year, and they're still coming in, and it's all about fire.
Yeah.
It's not. The fires are there still. They're not the way they used to be, but what's in the fires are more dangerous. When I came in, they were still using real 2x4s,
Mhm.
real building materials, not
Glues and all this other
processed
stuff, right?
sheets
Exactly.
of plywood and all
Right.
this other stuff, and it's there. We really have to go faster. We have to change faster. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
I wanted to touch on something quick before I forget. You had mentioned something before about the hazmat and how the guys have evolved over the time. And just even in my time being a fireman there and then being out for 8 years, working in another company and then coming back to SOC and then working in 288 as a lieutenant and seeing how even the hazmat, the guys have evolved to how much they were drilling and how proficient they were in all of the meters and all of the stuff and everything, it was a big change, even from before 9/11 for me to how it was. And it's still, snowballing, when I'm there, I still see the guys drilling over there and Cassidy and a bunch of guys, I don't even, did Berner get out? I don't even know if he got
Yeah,
out.
he was on.
Burner's out.
He was just on the order, I think, or he was just on the
Yep.
UFOA retirees list.
And Hanson, those guys are doing a great job over there. They really, I have to
Which
say,
There's a big change
every
over
time
there too.
Yeah.
I felt
We lost-
comfortable going to crappy shit,
Yeah, we lost within 3 or 4 years of my retirement of 2017. You lost almost all of your senior rescue chiefs in the battalion and all your hazmat chiefs in the battalion. I was there for so many years. Nicky Del Rey was there for so many
Right,
years.
he was there a long time.
Kelly was there for so many years. Bergamini was there for so many years. Schluick was there for so many years. Strackhouse was there. They were all gone. They were all new chiefs. And in the rescue, it's the same. Rescue, a little bit easier because you're still doing fires. I had this conversation on the hazmat side with Malcolm at the Firebell Club in June. I said, you got Dan Murray in there as a deputy chief that he's on light duty or medical leave. He's got some issues, but it's been that way for a while. And you're planning to bring a new guy in as the deputy, but it's not going to be until he's promoted on the list until the fall of this year, which is already passed. Bring him in early. Bring him in 2 or 3 months early and give him some time to mentor with Murray. When you leave a fire battalion or even the hazmat battalion, you still got a learning curve as a deputy of hazmat that you don't have as a deputy on the fire side, because on the deputy on the hazmat side, you're dealing with grants, you're dealing with capital budgets, you're dealing with developing apparatus design and specifications, you're dealing with all these other issues that a regular deputy on the fire side is not seeing until they go to staff. They need to start a mentoring process that is better in the whole fire service. We don't teach people their job, if we do at all, until they're in the job. And by that point, we're already behind the curve.
So I want to push a little forward to now. You become from fanning exec, so you become
Carruthers.
Carruthers. How does that happen? What happens there?
Well, I got promoted to battalion chief.
Oh, that's right. I missed that. That's September 5th.
Right.
That's how that happened. September 5th,
Yeah.
2000.
Right. But and be honest with you, it was tough, but probably another big learning point for me working for Carruthers.
Mm.
At that time, the staff chiefs were working 24-hour shifts, so they were not there, but every fourth day. So during the days that he was off, if Downey from Rescue or Fanning from HazMat or Guido from the Marine Division needed anything, I was the point of contact. And anything I could do to solve the problem, that would take place. If I couldn't solve it, I'd either wait for Carruthers to come in and discuss it with him, or if it was a real emergency, I'd call him at home and discuss it and see what action we needed to take. But that position was there. Before me, it was George Mayer who had it for a year. Before him was Mike Weinlein. So we were right on the staff there. I was right next to Chief of Personnel, Ramos, and right next to him was Gansey's office, and Nigro's was two doors down. Carruthers had the one in between as the special ops chief. So just every day we were handling things at headquarters, and I had all of the HazMat stuff and the rescue. Gansey and Nigro would be walking down the hall one day, and we're thinking about getting Purple K trucks. That's HazMat. Give it to them. Radiological. Give it to them.
Yeah.
So,
Give it to Ingram.
and it was one of those opportunities. And a lot of people found it difficult to work with Carruthers, and I certainly did in the beginning until I learned to work with him. Anytime I gave him a report, in the beginning, it usually came back with a lot of red ink on it. And I kind of did not like that in the beginning. But in a way, he was teaching me to be better and more succinct in my reports to try and get things done and accomplished. So it was really good. A lot of people, what do you remember Carruthers for? What do most people complain about him?
I don't know. What would you say, Ruff?
I don't know.
White Sox?
Oh,
Right. I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah, people would complain. He came out of that fourth alarm fire and he yelled at me for wearing white socks. My point of view, if you did 103 things wrong, he would have called you out on the carpet for all 100 of them, because he expected perfection from everybody all the time. He wanted everybody to be the best at their job. If he only called you out for your white socks, the other side of the coin was you did everything else right.
Didn't look at it that way, bro.
Well, you weren't when you were being called out for your white socks.
I never wore white socks.
But now
Not
that
me.
you're retired and smarter and wiser, you could see the other side of that coin.
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for a
White
while.
socks.
That was
Well,
a big thing.
it should be, because you love the job. What's the representation of the job? The uniform.
Right.
Wear it proudly.
That's
Sounds
what my
like your
brother used to
brother.
say. My
I
brother
just
was a
gonna
guy.
say.
My brother was a big guy on wearing black socks and not wearing
Just
t-shirts
be
and be
act like
professional.
you're-
He used to say,
yes.
Act
Yeah.
like you're professional.
You go to any other place, they're wearing their uniforms. Do we have to do that and not wear ours so that we can show how good we are? We can do both. We can be good and be respectful of the uniform. That's how I always took it
Steve
later
says
on.
that all the time. Chief Kuba says that all the time.
Yeah. Well, another reason I like him too.
You do? Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I didn't have any issues with him. I worked with him. It was good.
All right, let's fast forward a little bit to 9/11 because what time is it? Oh, we got a little bit of time, but it's getting there. So, you were in your office when the first plane hit. So you were working that day, right?
Yep. I was
So what-
actually on the phone with the chief of HazMat for Chicago,
Mhm.
Gene Ryan, and we were talking about some national issues. We were both on this interagency board, and we were trying to get things accomplished in terms of testing of gear and working with the military and get information from them. And all of a sudden, 2 firemen run past my office into Gansey's office. So I told Gene I got to hang up the phone. I think something happened. I think somebody got hurt. Hung up the phone, went in there. They were all staring out the window at the first tower. And we all, at that point, said, okay, let's go. We all got down into the garage, got our response vehicles, and went. Parked over on West Street, and we set up a command post in the down ramp to the underground parking garage of the World Financial Center across the street from the North Tower. It's not there anymore. But we set that up, and as units were coming in, we lined up trucks on one side and engines on the other. And when you came in, you went to the back of the line. When they called for another engine, first one up went. I grabbed a ESU sergeant and a ESU officer who were not standing there in their chemical suits, but standing there with their automatic weapons and their ballistic vests and helmets, and told them, I need you to go down into the parking garage. I want to make sure that it's cleared out. I want to use it as a safe haven if we need it. Because we were already talking on the way to the site that this was a terrorist attack. It was too clear a day for a pilot and a co-pilot to steer into the World Trade Center and not know it. So Gansey was already calling the tower at LaGuardia to try and figure out what was going on with the plane, what plane was it and stuff, before we even got there. When the first tower came down, and I knew Jack was in that south tower. He had reported in, and he was going into that one there. When the first tower came down, we did retreat into the parking garage, so it was kind of good that we did that. We had a bunch of people down there from the command post. The chief of safety was there. Gansey was there. Ray Downey was in there. Alf Fuentes. Some of the trucks and engines were in there. When everything cleared, I mean, it got black as night on the desert with nothing but stars. The dust was, choking. So we finally, it started to settle down a little bit. And it probably took about 10 minutes or so. I think it was Ray Downey found a door or a way out. We got outside. We regrouped on the ramp. And Ray said to Gansey, Pete, that he was going to go over to the South Tower and start a rescue operation over there. Alf Fuentes with him. Gansey and I stayed on the ramp with one or two other individuals. And he told Nigro, I think at the time, to go to another side, because I think he had already called something. He already called for the third, fifth alarm. We had a fifth alarm in the South Tower, a fifth in the North Tower, and a fifth assigned to the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge. So I think he told Nigro to go over there. And then when we were just ordering everybody out of the North Tower and steering them north up towards up near where the high school was, up in that area. Forget the street. But we did that. And then when the tower came down, Gansey ran south, I ran north. And when the collapse started to overtake me, I jumped under a tower ladder and rolled under the tandem wheels in the back, thinking maybe the springs will help me. But I survived just out of pure luck. And then we just started to come out of that after it settled down again and started to regroup. We started to try to stretch lines. We were realizing the hydrants weren't out. Eventually, at some point, we were just steering people out. We got the one first fireboat that pulled up. Carruthers was on the scene at that time, and he told me to go get some of the large diameter hose off of the fireboat, bring it down. We'd set up a manifold and start putting out fires. The streets were covered with like 3 or 4 inches of paper. And you could just see the fire just following the paper along to other buildings. We got the hose down there. We set it up. We just started to try and, remove as many viable ambulatory people that we could before we had started to get people moving. I did send from the command post initially, I sent the on-duty HazMat team into the South Tower. And I sent them in there with radiological meters and chemical detectors because we knew it was an attack. I wanted to know if there were any other hazards in there that could affect our people before that occurred. That's how we ended up losing them. I got called on the carpet by Von Essen for that a couple weeks later. He asked me how we lost them, and I told him that we've been training for the last 4 years with the military for a chemical and other WMD type attack, and we're training to identify them. So we needed to know if there were other hazards in there. Stan Ryback showed up off duty, and we had about 3 or 4 other HazMat people come in from other places, and they went to HazMat 1's rig that was still standing and
I
collected.
think they moved it, right? Didn't Anthony Castagna move it?
He might have moved it, yeah. He was the only one that survived the on-duty tour. As the
Oh, Bob
resource.
Hunter, too. Didn't Bob Hunter?
I don't think he was originally on the on-duty tour.
Oh,
I
he
think
wasn't on the under tour?
Oh, Joe Iovino was the first guy that I saw, and he said to me, everybody was gone. That's the first guy when I got down. The second tower had just collapsed.
Yeah. Well,
And he was
the
the first
on-duty team was in the North Tower, and the shift that was relieved to go to their medical went into the South Tower. And Anthony, I believe, was the only one left from the original on-duty tour. So they got meters out of there, and I had Stan and the others do a sweep of the field, do a circle of the field. It took them about 2 hours to make their way around and report back to me that they couldn't detect anything. And we worked from there. I worked as the health and safety officer for the first 30 days, and then after that, we got hit with the white powder in October.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Anthrax.
Yeah, I tell you, for 6 months, and most people don't think about this, but in September we had the World Trade Center. In October we had the Anthrax. In November we had the plane down in the Rockaways. In December we had the titanium explosion under One New York Plaza with 43 firefighters going to the hospital. In January we had another titanium chiller unit on the World Trade Center grounds. And then there was something else in February too, but for like 6 months, we just had one big issue after another.
How many were legit anthrax? What was there?
Well, there were more legit ones outside of the city than inside, but we had the ones over. We had the one woman that worked in a hospital in the city who died, but she lived in New Jersey. We had the one envelope that went to the news service over on the west side, and that was another one of those issues where we had a little bit of a problem between the PD and the fire, because the PD got to that one first. And they went in and they set up properly, and they got into their level Bs, and they had their APRs, and they had a decon set up, and they went inside and they handled the envelope that had come in, and they packaged it and deconned it and sent it off. But then they deconned themselves and doffed their equipment. And while they were there, apparently one of the supervisors for the news team said, "This is BS. We get these things all the time." And they were like, "What do you mean you get these things all the time? We've never been here for this before." And he said, "Yeah, we usually just ignore them." And we had one last week, and they were like, "What'd you do with that one?" "I think it's still in the drawer down the hall." So they went down the hall. They opened up the drawer, and there was another envelope in there. So they took it and put it in a Ziploc bag and double bagged it and sent it on its way. That was the real one. That caused about, I don't know, a dozen or so NYPD ESU officers to go for the treatments, the doxy for 60-day regimen because of the exposure. But it also, because it was sent to the lab as a, this is probably a hoax one, and turned out to be the real one. It was never pre-tested. And when it got there, the people at the Health and Hospitals lab tested it as a hoax, and they contaminated the lab, and we lost the New York City's level 3 bio lab for 6 months.
Wow.
Because
did you create the Hammer teams?
I worked it out with Tom Purtell, He was the chief of SOD at the time, and I represented the fire department. So we put the teams together. It was a challenging issue dealing with the PD. Tom was great to work with. We said, okay, we want to keep these things low profile. We want to not go in with guns blazing and chemical suits on. We're going to do an assessment. This is how we're going to do it. We set up our guidelines. We had the gear in the cars. PD was going to supply the vehicles, and we were going to keep it to 2 people. So it wasn't a whole mob showing up, because we were getting, at one point, we were doing about 250 white powder calls a day.
Right.
It was a lot. I mean, and they ranged from anything that was on the high end risk to for an envelope at Clinton's office up on
Right. Powder in an envelope, like actual powder in an envelope,
Right.
compared to, you know, like
a
or
guy
borax on the floor for, you know, for a roach or something like that. you know
Yeah, a
what I mean?
guy calling up. He actually called up because he had white powder in the bottom of his Kellogg's frosted flakes
Yeah, right.
box.
Yeah.
You know,
I
So-
think
No, I have
originally,
to say, Chief, when we did the hammer teams early on, especially, and I did it, you know, quite a bit. It was overtime, you know, like,
Mhm.
and we
Oh, I
went to a
thought
lot
you
of
did it because you knew it was an
it
important
was
mission.
for the people,
Yes, yes.
But I will say, yeah, cash. I will say this. I remember, I mean, just you talking about it with the PD now, it just made me think about it. And I don't, you know, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but we would go there and we would go through our protocol legit. And those guys over there, they wouldn't do it. You know what I
Believe me,
mean?
I
And-
know. I
and
know.
that was like a common thing. Like that was pretty common.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah.
And it went from the 2 to then Phil Pulaski getting involved and saying, this is no good. The union says we have to have 2 cops because one gun has to protect the other gun. They have to have each other's back. So we went to 3. Well, that was before. That was the union. Then Phil came in and said, we need to have a trained investigator on the team. So we have to have one of my detectives on the scene. I was able to win a little bit of that argument and say, well, your investigator has a gun, so we can release the other cop back to the street and keep it at 3. But then after January 1st of 2002, and they got the mayor to agree to the police being in charge of all criminal and HazMat and WMD events until it was determined to just be a HazMat. On January 2nd, we didn't get any more calls from the PD from 911 for white powder, and I called them up and I was like, this is, you know, we're working as a team here. This is the way it's going to be the best for the city. And they said, well, you know, we haven't determined it's just a HazMat yet. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And is that why you're telling 911 not to notify the fire department? Oh, of course.
That's why we had the SOD radio too, right? We were listening to that to pick up the run. I remember
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Now that you say that, I remember that.
Oh, it was a nightmare dealing with them after that, because they saw the money was going to start flowing in.
Wow. I remember that.
It became a big issue.
Interesting.
Yep. So we talked about the titanium chiller you mentioned, and then where's the other thing over there?
Interesting.
Oh, then you said you testified before the Senate.
It's blurry.
With the
Yeah,
PPE.
they asked me to come down there and testify about the PPE issues that we were having, the challenges. So I was able to work with the department a little bit, Von Essen and his staff. And I think the unions may have had some input too, and the press office, we were able to put together statements to address the PP issues that we had. The incompatibility of all the different APR companies and their brands and models, the issues with SCBAs not being tested against these types of materials, PPE not being tested. Yeah, it was a whole big issue. So most of it was focused around respiratory, but we were able to get in some of the other information as well too. But it helped because in 1998, Jack had gotten us involved in the interagency board, which was stood up by then Attorney General Janet Reno, and it was chaired by two guys, one from the FBI and one from the Department of Defense. And we started to look at collaborations between the military and FBI on the federal side, and high-ranking people from fire service, basically around the country, on how we could help them learn how to, if we get an attack on USA continent land, how they would work, because when they work overseas, they don't work under OSHA and all these other issues. And in return, they started to share some of their chemical information with us. So we were able to get a lot of people involved. The one guy, Gene Ryan from Chicago, A.D. Vickery from Seattle, who was in the Seattle Fire Department for 53 years before he retired, and he was probably an assistant chief for 35. I mean, strong-minded people.
Let's get him on the show.
No, he's still around. He's an excellent guy. He's still involved. But his father was the chief of Seattle. His father was I think the first superintendent of the National Fire Academy. He's a big guy for historical perspective and a lot of the stuff.
I'll have to hit you up for that number.
Sure.
So then you guys, somebody comes up with the idea for the HazMat Tech engines, 44, 250, 274, 165. Right?
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. That came out of headquarters. It might have been Carruthers.
That's a pretty good idea, actually.
It is. It increases the reach of HazMat, especially as they're tied up. We were talking about this before. You know, you could be at the east end of Staten Island for 3 hours.
They would be there for hours. They would go out for 8 hours out of the day. They would be gone for on a run. Yeah.
Well, there was the concept of the tiered response was to try and establish a robust HazMat capability in each of the 5 boroughs, because one of the concerns we always had was if we had an attack and they took out tunnels and bridges, then we could have boroughs without that HazMat capability. So that was the design of the tiered response, so that we would have an equal number of CPC, decon, engine, SOC support ladders, and tech capabilities in each of the boroughs, so that we could get them there in a quickly and timely manner to at least start to be aware and start to stabilize the event until the mothership got there. So.
No, that's a good. The squads like it.
Yeah, it was a good. Yeah. I'm sure.
Oh, that went over by 274. Yahoo!
Not for the right reasons, but yeah, I'm sure you were.
Well, I want full coverage of the borough
city and the citizens of New York.
Yeah. All right, a couple of random questions I want to ask you. Because we're getting a little late. We're up to. Well, you retired in 2017, but I want to throw a couple other questions at you that's not on your list. So, given what's going on today and the amount of expertise that you have and training that you have, if you were to say, what would you think would be the next attack or type of attack that would be coming our way?
Yeah, I think the pattern that we've been seeing is more likely what we're going to see: smaller attacks, smaller groups, lone wolves. The what do I call them? Unconventional type weapons, the knife attacks, the hatchet attacks, the vehicle rammings, the active shooters, because those are the ones that are harder to track and break apart on the prevention side with law enforcement. The ones that are coming through, and you know, that's another part of the changing fire service, that those things are becoming more common than the fires, and so in some places even more common than the regular emergencies. We have to address all of these issues. I tell the recruits, the fire service you're joining today is not the fire service I joined. You know, I joined and it was really basically fires and emergencies. We didn't do medicals back then. You know, it wasn't until I was a captain and we started doing the CFRD training in the mid 90s. I mean, even that I think was a mistake when the people coming over now that take the promotional exam from the EMS side as a paramedic or an EMT, we bring them over and promote them to a firefighter and pay them more money. And we tell them you can't practice as a paramedic and an EMT anymore. To me, that's such a waste.
How many that's going to change? I wonder if they're going to up the capabilities of the engines, you know, seeing that we are getting so many paramedics and EMTs over there.
But they'll lose unless they keep it on their own. They're not maintaining their certifications.
Right.
And to get them back, we'd have to send them all the way back again, or unless they do a challenge refresher. We should be maintaining those skills, because any of these events, whether it's a chemical, a rad, an explosive, or these lone wolves, knives, hammers, they're all going to require medical response. And if we can maintain the skills of these people, I mean, the fights that we had with company officers after the merger, not letting ambulances getting diesel fuel out of a firehouse, to having them promote over. And who's the first one the officer has go do the medical? The guy who came over.
The guy who came from EMS. You got it, bro.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, that's one, wrong, but two, kind of silly on our part. And just, you know, on tips, you had said, because it's getting close.
Not yet.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, who do you keep in touch with from do you see a lot of the guys from the mat at all? Like,
well, Tony Musafini runs a once a month, 10 or 11 months a year HazMat breakfast.
I saw the breakfast. I did get the.
I like breakfast. What about you, Lou?
I'm on the list.
Oh, you are? Oh,
you're
I
out.
like some eggs and ham.
I like eggs.
Yeah, well, we go over to the Westbury Diner.
Biscuits and gravy.
And we get, you know, Stan Ryback shows up, Vinny Doherty, Al Water. We had another one of the original members show up for the first time this year, Nat Russo.
Nice. How about Georgie? Who?
Georgie.
He showed up once. We get
computing.
Freddie Cola, Carl Schramm. We've had Doc Carter come once in a while.
Oh. Did he adjust anybody's back while he was there?
I was never one of those guys that wanted him to do his homework on me when he was going to chiropractic school in quarters, and he'd wheel in after the meal his little training table there.
All right, Phil, lay down.
Yeah. No, Phil didn't go on the table either. If he did, he probably laid on the floor.
You know what else I wanted to ask you when you were talking about it before? Just because I know how it was for us, and I wasn't down there when both towers collapsed. How did you get mentally through running north while guys that you were standing right next to ran south and didn't make it? Like, how long did it take you to work through that? I mean,
I tell you, as a joke, I tell people the thing that saved me from the World Trade Center respiratory issues was the anthrax attack, because at that point, and I stopped being the health and safety officer, and I was working with all of getting the hammer teams out in the morning at 6 o'clock, and then taking them back in at 12 o'clock at night down first at the pier, and then back to quarters, and going to headquarters, to still being Carruthers exec, doing that work there. We lost Downey and a lot of the rescue chiefs, so they had new people covering there. They needed help. Vinny Doherty and I were part of the USAR team, but we were more in logistics. Vinny came to me a couple hours after the towers came down and said, "Hey, we should activate the USAR equipment." I said, "Yes, great idea. Go ahead." He's the one that got it out of tech services where we stored it.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was stored at Tech Services. In fact, Jack, again, every opportunity I was given, I took. Jack sent me to Loadmaster School at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, because Ray was always like the front man for the USAR team, but Jack was the one that kept everything running in the background, and
Really?
he used us. We did all the equipment checks out of HazMat Ops. So, it wasn't until after 9/11 that we started to use people on overtime to go down there and do that. Eddie Beban was a big force in that, and Vinny set it up over in the backyard of the school there, and that's where we had the rescue captains who were coming in each day. Would meet there, and we'd tell them, we'd break them up into the 4 quadrants. And so the answer to your question is, it just worked. I worked straight through, and I didn't go home until Thursday.
No, but I'm saying, like, even
Yeah.
mentally, like, knowing that you guys were together and he ran one way and didn't make it, you ran another way, right? It's
Well,
just
I didn't
crazy.
know he didn't make it until several hours later, when we the chiefs that were on scene, we met at a command location, and Nick, he was Division III commander, and the lady,
Visconti?
yeah, Nick Visconti
I was
was
gonna say
talking, and he was like, we haven't seen Gansey. And I said, I was with him when the tower came down. He ran south and I ran north. And so he said, okay, he ran south. Okay, so then they focused the rescue operation in
Yeah,
that
those guys
area.
were found pretty quick, I remember.
Yeah, and that's where they found him, down
Quickest, I
in
should say.
that
Not
area.
pretty quick, but quicker.
Yeah. So, but it was just, I just kept working. And the more I worked, I didn't have to think about that. I just had to focus. Thursday night when I got home, I broke down a little bit.
Mm.
And then probably the hardest part for me the whole time after that was every night I called Jack's wife.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
She still comes every year. She's only one of the few.
Yeah,
that still
no, she's
comes
good,
every
and
year,
she's done a lot of good work with that
Yeah.
Autism for Angels. I understand from Tony, who's on the board of directors there, that I think this was their last year for the dinner and for the program. I think they'll be doing something else, but I'm not familiar with all the details. Just that I think it's coming to an end. But she's done a lot of great things, and a lot of the wives that lost husbands stuck together and did a lot of good things.
Tell him how we felt about the chief when we saw him the first time. You remember? We talk about it all the time.
Yeah. We would see guys in HazMat, and our perception of HazMat was nothing. We knew nothing about HazMat. So we figured if a guy went to HazMat, probably couldn't have worked anywhere, right? But this guy's got HazMat. And then you find out that the chief worked in 26 truck, and he worked in all these busy.
We saw him.
Not only him, but all you guys.
All you guys. Chief Fanning. He had his class A's were like. I don't even know how many. You couldn't put another pin on there. Like, yeah. Look at his. Look at look at it. Look at his left side there. Incredible.
I found that picture a little earlier when I was just sitting here.
I love it. But that's we talk about him a lot because he was, and I do remember what a gentleman he was and how nice he was.
He was incredible.
It's embarrassing to us to think
that we even thought that way about him.
That we even thought that way.
Well, even
so little time.
The captain that came after him, Tom Kennedy, captain of Ford Truck, Gordon Bennett medal winner.
I mean, look at all the guys.
John Fatter came after him. Years in Brooklyn. He was a fireman with Gansey and those others, and we had some great.
Even the guys when you came over as charter members, all the guys that came from rescues and all the talented guys. Amazing.
They did, as I said, they did a great job of putting together a good mix of knowledge and experience.
Yeah, you did all right, Chief. Excellent career. I think now it might be time, Gons.
Now it might be the time.
You know what? I wanted to give a shout out. We spoke about her a little bit, but Robin Sutton Mundy, who was just amazing, always helped the guys. Always knew how to get tools. Always knew how to do she just got things done all the time.
Oh, she
right?
did. She
Yeah.
was fantastic. She left a really good career in Wall Street to come to the fire department.
Yep.
And her brother was Bill Monday, who was the chief of mass services for many years after being in Brooklyn for years. Her father was on the job.
I didn't know that.
She's married to a lieutenant.
Yeah. She's just would get things done. That's it.
Oh,
Whatever.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sound like Gonzo right now. Right, Gonzo. Now we got to give the chief.
Now is the time.
Now's the time
Now-
we give it to him.
Now is the
You
time.
sleeping? You're awake?
No, I'm awake.
Wake up, Michelle.
I'm waiting because I don't
Come
want
on.
to, I don't want to stop.
Go ahead, you
here.
do it. You want to do the music too, or should I do it?
You tell me, bro.
You do it. You take it all.
All right. All
You
right.
just woke up, so go
All
ahead.
right. I'm just taking it all in, Chief. Don't listen to this guy. Anyway. All right, Chief. It's time for the old school tip of the day.
Day.
All right, Chief. We bring you in here. Take it away.
Well, I would just say that take every opportunity to learn that you can while you're in the fire service, whether you're a firefighter and you're just new and a recruit. When you're adding the quarters and your equipment checks are all done and everything else that your committee work is done, read, whether you want to call it studying or just reading, but continue to learn the mission that you have. And as I tell recruits, you have to know every piece of equipment on the apparatus. You know the saw, you know the hose, you know the nozzle, you know the ladder. If you got a meter on the truck, every one of you has meters now, whether it's CO meters, whether it's 4-gas meters, you should know that piece of equipment as well as the others. And just understand that with the materials that are in buildings today, cancer is still on the rise, even though we've been trying to do a much better job of making firefighters aware of the hazards and dangers and to use the PPE to its fullest to make sure that not only do you have a good, safe career, but you have a long and healthy retirement after that. And the other thing is just mentoring. Mentor people that work with you, with people under you if you're a lieutenant or a captain. That was another lesson that I learned very early on, that I was denied a promotion in an outside business because I hadn't trained anybody to take my place. So I took that lesson to heart. I trained some people and they were able to take my position and I got promoted. I always looked at it that way in the fire service too. When I was getting ready to retire as a WMD chief for 2.5 years, I would go to the commissioner every quarter when I gave my reports on what I was covering at the state and federal level for WMD issues for the fire department and say, give me somebody that I can train to replace me. I'm getting close to retirement age. And if you think what I do is important, give me somebody to train. It took me 2.5 years to get somebody. It was always a matter of money, an issue that they couldn't put 2 people on the same budget line. But I was able to utilize a small little issue that the city had, that the civil service test for battalion chief, the list was about to expire and they didn't have a new test ready. So they did what they usually do at the end of the list and they over promoted battalion chiefs to cover them until a new test was established and given. And I went back to the commissioner and I said, I'd like to get one of those new battalion chiefs. And he said, we told you before, Bob, we don't have a budget line for that. And I said, the money's not an issue anymore, Commissioner. And he looked at me and said, what do you mean? And I said, you already found the money. You over promoted battalion chiefs. I'm giving you the opportunity to give one of them a good position. And they were able to give me somebody, and we mentored him for over a year. And hopefully he's continuing the good work. That's what I hear he is. So hopefully the mentoring I did was great.
All right. Very nice.
That's outside the box thinking guy right there, Roof. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm going to do when I leave.
Leave what?
I'm going to get somebody to
sit in your seat.
mentor somebody to come sit in this seat here.
I gotta have
travel up there every Monday and
gotta-
Thursday night.
Is that the exo seat or the fatso seat?
Probably the fatso.
Do they gotta have like gaudy curtains hanging in the background?
Yeah,
too,
they
or-
got to have the
You gotta
guinea
have the
curtains.
Ginzos,
And,
They got to
uh,
fill
yeah,
that
yeah.
seat. They need to go there every Monday and Thursday.
I'll
Fly
throw it
there.
out there. I'll get more
Same thing.
guys
I
who
never
are gonna
liked-
take that seat. You can shake a stick at.
All
All right, guys, let's do our last
Oh,
commercial. Because
shit.
this
Yes,
lines
sir.
up
Here we
with
go.
what the chief is saying.
right, here we go.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
Right, and tonight I have two health and safeties. One that I'm going to read that they gave me, and the other one is what developed from this show. Regularly wash the inside liner of your helmet. Maintaining a clean helmet removes harmful contaminants to minimize your risk of skin cancer and precancerous cells on your forehead, or in Louis' words, his five head. So the second one is let's go with what the chief was saying. Give a code of hazardous materials, bro, because statistics are what's going to eventually protect us, I think. You know what I mean? If you're not giving these stats as hazardous materials, it's going to go in as any other run, and you need to build a case behind whatever it is that you're putting forth. So hit that button, mark it as a hazardous materials, because the chief said they are hazardous materials. It's no longer the wood burning in the fire in the house in a PD or whatever it is. It's all these nasty chemicals that are killing us. And I want to thank the chief. I thoroughly enjoyed this show, Chief.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I really appreciated you coming on. Thank you for being so kind to my wife back in the day. She will never forget it. She always talked so highly of you. For her to listen to the show tonight says a lot. So
yeah, she doesn't listen to the show, I don't think, right?
Sometimes, but she hit me up on the text. So my little HazMat nerd.
Well, I thank you for asking me on. And as I told you in the first email, I was honored and a little surprised to be considered as a guest on the show that is more about the fireside. But I'm glad to have the opportunity to push the HazMat health and safety issue, because it's what it's all about. We want to enjoy the career and we want to retire in health. So
yeah, and I think that you're going to get the Gettin Salty Award this year for the most detailed outline of your career. So.
Well, it also helped me because I never took the job home.
Uh-huh.
Even my son, when he was in 138, he came to me about 6 months after he got in there, and he said, "You got to tell me where you worked, because the guys don't believe me that I don't know." I never took it home.
Oh. So you can take home now. You now get your ticket punched for the Gettin Salty boat cruise in August. All the past, this is first weekend in August. Usually, we go on. We have a buddy who owns the John J. Harvey, and we do a cruise around the Statue of Liberty with some booze and food and whatever guests are on.
All the guests for the year. Come on.
Well, is that a guest plus one? Because I promised my wife at one point to get her a ride on the fireboat after I told her about all of the dignitaries I took.
This will make an exception.
She's holding that against me.
You can bring the missus. You can bring the missus.
Can't have that.
Absolutely. All right. You have any shout outs, Roofy?
I do, Gons.
Want to save that one for last? Oh, okay. Nope.
No, we'll throw it up there now.
Oh,
so this is I don't know how to say his last name. I'm thinking it's Giebert. 324. Passed away from 9/11 cancer from at the age of 28. There's a where's that?
They have that, and I can put it in the chat for.
Yeah, we'll put it in the chat, and we'll put it in the description. So this is a foundation for him, and I just wanted to a couple of my friends that play hockey with that I guess that he played hockey on the 4-6 Battalion team. So I just wanted to put it up there. If you got a couple extra shekels, make a donation, please.
That is a line of duty death, right, Roof? So we got to give him the $5 for a line of duty. All right, Gons, pull up that other one for the 9. So March 17, 2024, in honor of the Charleston 9, a study of change following tragedy. Can you make that any bigger? What time?
That's as big as I can get it for right now.
What do they reach out to? Because I can't see shit, even with my glasses.
At the Historic Strand Theater, 400 Clinton Avenue, 8:30 to 2 p.m. No cost to attend, sponsored by the Lake Wood Board of Fire Commissioners.
There you go. We'll put that up in there too, because it looks like there's a QR code in there. So maybe
Yeah,
you
let
can
me
select
see.
that. And
The
last
QR
but not
code.
least, we're gonna bid a fair bon voyage to our buddy Tubby Blaze Major from Squad 288. Tomorrow's his last day, even though I didn't get a call. That's all right. Roofy got the call, so I know where I'm at now. All right. Guy was only the best man at my wedding. Don't call me. I'm good. Okay. Only the
Your
best
third
man at my third wedding. Yes, correct. Thank you.
Yeah, let's
Once,
clarify
twice, three
that.
times a lady. It's his last day tomorrow. Godspeed, my little tubby friend. Best of luck. Chief, thanks for coming on. Have a great mysterious Christmas at the family's house. You know what I mean? On the down low Christmas. And Roofy, Gons, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all the
Merry
guys in the
Christmas.
chat who follow us. Love you guys. We'll be back in the new year bigger and better than ever.
We got it. I think we have a show on the 28th. I'm pretty sure we have something on
Oh,
the
we
28th.
do? Oh, God bless
God
you.
bless you,
Jack Hack.
Jack Hack.
All right, fellas. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the 28th. Until then, stay low and go.
Okay, everybody. We'll see you at the big one. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Enjoy
Could
the
you come up with
holidays.
something better than that for crying out loud? Could you come up with a better title?
You know,
I'll
think of it. I'll start something new for next.
We'll give him a mazel tov or something.
Shalom.
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 Thank you,
Shalom.
Chief.
That's
Shalom.
tomorrow. Shalom.
Shalom
Can't be
from
that.
the-
That's tomorrow.
Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom
shalom.
from the top floor. See you.
That's what I was going to say. You see the top floor.
All right.
Good night.